All right, I will call the BUUSD Facilities Committee meeting to order at 5 p.m. And then I would look for approval of the minutes for June 9th, 2025.
So move.
Even though it wasn't there, I can second them.
Yeah, you can. That's fine. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor of the June 9th minutes as written, please say aye.
Aye.
And
Opposed?
I will abstain.
Okay.
I was at that meeting. I was there.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, we're. Yep.
All right, thank you. Any additions or changes to the agenda?
I would only ask under the order of things. How about if I give you the summer projects update first, and then we can finish the meeting, which will be probably at some length to discuss our ball field projects.
Okay. Can do that.
You sent me to the meeting, but I didn't get any attachments.
And you should have received that. You were on the list that Tina sent out.
Tina Gilbert. Gotcha.
Yeah, this would be an attachment there.
All right, so we'll do that. We'll make
Got it.
5.4 in current business above 5.1. Any public comment? Okay, no public comment. Current business 5.4 summer projects update. Jamie?
So normally this list would have been shared with the facilities committee prior to summer, but with a reorganization of the facilities committee that just didn't take place. So I thought it was prudent just to share with you the list of the projects, the major projects that we're doing here this summer in all the schools. And I guess I'll just very briefly just literally run down the list. Spalding High School, as we annually do, replacing asbestos floor tiles with new VCT tiles. That is actually complete. The asbestos tiles have been abated and the new tiles have been completed as of last Friday. As well, we replaced the asphalt shingles on the concession stand building out on the football field. So those projects have been completed. At Berry City School, we are replacing the two main entry doors, the north and south drum entrances. We're replacing the worn out concrete pads just adjacent to the front of those doors. We're continuing the Victalic fitting replacement on the heating system. And essentially, it's just kind of an inferior method of how they join the piping together when they built the building. And we've been replacing chunks of that every summer, kind of doing in phases. So that's a continuation of that project. We are replacing the VCT tiles in the student restrooms with epoxy paint. We're finding that is more of a sanitary method of maintaining the cleanliness of the bathrooms. So that is something we're doing this summer as well. The stormwater project that has begun at Berry City School, that is in process, and that'll be a summer-long project. As well, we are putting air conditioning in the library, as well as the maintenance break area and office with mini split heat systems, heat pump systems. That will give Berry City air conditioning in their library, much like we have at Spalding High School and Berrytown School. We're trying to be consistent across the district with that. We are removing more carpet in various classrooms and hallways and going back with VCT tile. Again, that's an annual project we do every year at Berrytown. We insulated one of the rooftop penthouses that houses the air conditioning ventilation equipment. That was insulating the exterior walls and then encompassing it with the PVC roofing membrane, both the roof and the walls. Berrytown, we also started a stormwater project up there as well. They're in the midst of that as we speak. And we're also putting in a preschool fencing around the preschool playground. That again is part of the standards that is set for preschool playgrounds. So that's happening this summer as well. And then up at the C building, we did a little improvement with some drainage around the perimeter of our parking lot. We were finding we had some standing water along the edge of the parking lot and the grassy area. We did a little swale work there to get that drainage to go where it needs to go. So essentially, that's the bulk of projects. Not to say that we may not have one or two projects that may come up as the summer goes along, but that's the bulk of our projects for the summer.
Jamie, how much the replacing of the tiles, you see that annually, is that like ongoing or eventually that'll come to an end because they're all changed out or?
It will, yes. Yeah. Between all the schools, for example, so Spalding High School here, we have 1 to maybe 2 more summers and we will have abated all the asbestos floor tiles in the building.
Wow.
We were very, very close to completing that.
Is that an arduous process with like masks and suits and stuff like that?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, we have to contract it out to an asbestos abatement contractor. You know, they have to pull permits for the state of Vermont. And it's the proper way to ventilate that type of work and signage.
Costly.
Yeah.
Costly.
As you say, everything's costly.
Has to be done. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Jamie, the stormwater project at Berry City, it says paid 50%. Is that 50% of the total cost or 50% of what our match is?
Yes, yeah, thanks that's a good question there. So with all 3 schools for the stormwater project, we're responsible for 10% of the project. And for the Berry City project, they billed us 50% of our 10% match. So we have paid 50% of that already. As well, and it's an error of my part, I apologize, Berry Town, we have done the same thing. We paid 50% of our 10% match for Berry Town as well. And excuse me as well, I did miss something else as far as the summertime project is the phone system across the district, the school district. We're replacing the entire phone system across the district with voice over IP. It's just internet-based phone lines versus the system that we have now. That is in progress, and new equipment is being delivered daily at all of our schools. And we will be implementing a cutover late July, starting to put in some of the new phones in some of the buildings, and then slowly start cutting over all the phones throughout the rest of the summer. So that's in process as well.
What does that replace? It was a different system?
So the phone system, essentially, I mean, every phone is replaced with a new phone. And that's the easy way to look at it. But the hardware, the mechanics of how the phone system works is now over the internet lines versus the hard phone
VIP
lines.
voice over internet, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. And with that comes with a lot of, I'm gonna say bells and whistles for lack of a better term. There's a lot of features now that voice over IP offers that a standard phone system doesn't have. People are outside of the building, they can have calls forwarded to their cell phones, to their homes. There's a way to keep private numbers private. People are using cell phones, they're not giving out their personal cell phone numbers to the public. A lot of functions now with this voice over IP system. A lot of things we're not aware of that we're going to get, so it's pretty exciting.
Jamie, I have a question.
Sure.
Or Giuliano, I have a question. Does the new system affect in any way how the time clocks and the emergency systems are connected to or hardwired to any emergency functions?
Yeah, I can speak. Yeah, so the new phone system, much like the existing phone system we have now, if somebody was to place a 911 call from, say, room 100 at the high school, the E911 folks will see that on their screen. It's going to say Spalding High School, 155 Air Street, room 100. So when first responders come to the school, they're going to know where they're going in that building, or they're going to know where to ask for, where to go in that building.
Okay, so we don't need to reset anything on
Yeah, you broke up quite a bit there, Alice, but I think you were saying, yeah, with this new phone system, we're still gonna have that capability.
Shouldn't. Okay, but we shouldn't have. It just happens automatically.
Yeah, I'm
once
sorry,
the
you're breaking up
phone
quite a bit. We didn't.
system is installed.
I think she's just confirming that there's no other additional stuff to do, that it's gonna happen automatically. Good question.
Yeah, this is part of the system. The E911 capabilities is gonna be with this new system as it was with the old system. If you're communicating, Alice, we're not hearing you.
Alice, you might have to turn your video off.
Yeah, we're not hearing you. Your screen is frozen.
Yeah.
Alice, if you can hear us, turn off your video. That way, you might be able to
Have a
hear
better
us and
connection.
have a better connection. Which would make 5.1 difficult. If we move on to that. We'll skip over that. We'll pick up 5.1 towards the end. You don't really need that right now.
Okay.
So we'll move on to 5.2. Spalding High School Foundation projects and fundraising. Do you want to take that, Jamie, or should I pass it off to Ed?
I would ask Ed to maybe renew, revise on where we are with the foundation and what foundation is about.
Yeah, well, the foundation still exists. The the Spalding High School Foundation is a 501c3 organization created.
Yeah.
Created to raise funds for projects outside the scope of the normal school budget. So, we haven't had many of those lately, but the most glaring one that people notice is the lights that we put up on the fields. Trophy case, we've done a few things to the wrestling room, a few other asks that the board has come to us for. But other than that, we've been rather stagnant. We had a transition because the de facto members of the board are the superintendent and the principal. And so when there's a rollover there, it takes a while to get them up and running. I have met with Joanne, and I spoke to her on the phone, the principal. She's still here. Yeah. And she was very enthusiastic and stuff, but you know, their roles are just, they're, as I say, de facto. I'm not asking them of much, but they need to be on the board. Derek's, you've come to a meeting before, I believe, and a representative from the city council, I'm sorry, the BUUSD board, not city council. City council? Is that a de facto? I'll have to double check. It's been a while since we've had a meeting, but I would love to be able to have a meeting and say, this is what we'd like to fundraise for. If the facilities committee in the school were to come up with something that they needed money for.
Okay. Thank you, Ed.
Any questions for Ed and the foundation?
Essentially, what do we need to do?
Just come up with ideas and maybe a pathway to those ideas. Ed, that's probably a good start.
That's a good start. Well, I think you guys brought up the fact.
May I just jump in for a second?
Yeah.
Does that roll us into 5.3 now? Are we kind of rolling into that?
Well, we got, let me take care of 5.1 and then we'll go into 5.3.
Okay, I didn't know if we're starting to roll into 5.3.
Yeah.
All right.
Because Alice didn't have a good connection, so I kind of skipped over that.
Can you hear us okay now, Alice?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Things are good now, yeah.
I went upstairs.
I think you got your point across. You were asking Jamie if the phone system needed any updates or if it was going to continue on from an emergency service standpoint.
Right. My concern was when we switched at home to a VoIP system, we had to re-enter all our emergency information. And I was wondering if that had to be done the same for all the schools with the new VoIP connection.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna take place, whatever the process is, if it has to be, all the information has to be reloaded, re-downloaded again, or if it's just a transfer of that information, but regardless, either way, the E911 system will be fully compatible with this new system.
Yeah, I
Yes,
just wanted to make sure that was the case, that it didn't get overlooked, that we had to manually enter something.
Yeah.
But I think
No,
I think we'll be okay.
We're covered. Yep.
Okay.
Anything else, Fred?
So just, I think the segue was going to be, I don't know if you're going to go to the master plan. So there's already a master plan that was done in 2012.
Well, actually, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to get 5.1 out of the way. And this was to elect a vice chair. And that means, Alice, since you're the only board member, it would fall upon you, but we don't need to have a vice chair. So if you don't want to do it, that's okay too.
Right. I would be open to the suggestion, because other small committees that I'm on, that it kind of rotates, that everyone could be prepared to be the vice chair. So depending upon attendance at committee meetings, and I would be open to that.
Well, the community members can't be officials.
Oh, right.
That's how that works.
Right.
It stays with the board. So if you do want to do it, that's fine. And if
Yeah.
you don't want to do it, that's fine.
Yeah,
too.
I can do it. I can do that.
Okay.
That's not a problem. You have to just promise, you just have to promise that you'll never be absent.
Yeah. Well, and I think if one of us are not present, well, no, and never mind. That's because we need a minimum of
Yes.
3. So it should be fine. It should be okay.
Yes, we'll be good.
So I would look for a motion to nominate Alice as vice chair.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alice,
Congratulations, Alice.
I promise not to, I promise to be present. Okay, so then we'll move to 5.3, and that was the plans for the athletic fields. Jamie?
Yeah, I guess I'll start the conversation. In your packet, it was shared with you the conceptual drawing of what the ball field renovation would look like. And I think you've got both drawings of the current existing fields and the proposed fields. So essentially what this new plan would give us, it would give us regulation size baseball field, give us regulation size, 2 regulation size soccer fields and or lacrosse fields, depending on the season, as well as reorienting the fields so that we have, more playing spaces on site, on our school property. As well, it would rubberize the track. And then potentially, this is for discussion, whether or not we would artificial turf or not the football field. And this plan also shows a gravel footpath around the perimeter of all of the ball fields to allow, foot traffic around the ball fields. So this was done back in April of 2012. So we're 13 years later. And we have actually begun some work on the ball fields through the stormwater project. And stormwater project has actually started some of this renovation. It's just kind of tied into it. We've removed, all the fencing around the perimeter of the ball field that's adjacent to the parking lots, driveways. We have taken out the
questions. Was how is that affecting this plan? Because obviously that that wasn't thought of at the time when this thing was done.
Yeah, so the stormwater project has aided us in some of this project. The Crimson Tide Drive, which was the old exterior coming from the Air Street, by the railroad tracks, coming onto the school property. That Crimson Tide Drive, the asphalt driveway has been removed and returned back to a grassy condition. So it's expanded some of the outer limits of the ball field. That's all part of this ball field renovation. So that's where we are today with some of the renovations that sort of taken place because of the stormwater project. But there's a lot to do to this project to get us to what this conceptual drawing shows. So I think kind of what our task is at this meeting today is to review this conceptual drawing. What are the things that we want to keep? Are there things we want to change, delete, add? You know, have some back and forth about this drawing and where do we see us going from here. And without any of us being, engineers, there's lots of questions that engineers are going to ask us that we just can't simply know and come up with now. Although I did share with you some information that Jeff Tucker with DuBois and King shared with us of things to consider. One of the things we need to consider is the adjacent river that, surrounds about half of that ball field. And in the last 2 years, we've had some pretty major flooding out in that ball field. So something we need to do is to reach out to the state of Vermont, riverbank engineers, along with some advice from, let's say Jeff Tucker as a professional engineer. What are we allowed to do by state standard? What can we do to protect our ball fields? If we're going to invest into these ball fields, what are we allowed to do? So that's something that's going to be pretty important. And one of the options is to elevate some of the ball field. The ball field that seems to be getting flooded the mostly is the track football field area. So does that mean we elevate that field, a foot or two higher? So that if and when the field was to overflow the banks again, it wouldn't disturb and do damage to our rubberized track and football field. So that's a step that we need to take to get the state riverbank engineer involved to tell us what can we do, what can we not do. And then at the same time, we need to then share with an engineering firm to say, okay, here's this drawing. Here's what we think we know. Here's what we want to do. What we're looking for is a good faith professional estimate. You're in the range of X to X millions of dollars to do this type of project. Nowhere are we expecting at this point yet for someone to commit to an exact, hard number. Because until you've finally gone through and designed this project, you've engineered it, you've designed it, ready to be put out to bid. We just don't know that number, but a professional engineering firm could, come up with a good faith ballpark. You're in the range of X millions of dollars for this. So our task is when we leave this meeting is hopefully where you agree to what we want this field to look like. We can take that back to Jeff Tucker. Hopefully he's still looking to provide some volunteer services to craft up a professional estimate of you're in a range of. So that then what Ed has been asking us for many years is he needs that professional estimate to then go out and solicit to donors that are looking to donate to this cause.
I have a question.
Alice?
Something else that has changed since this master plan was drawn up is the fact that the legislature has anticipated massive consolidations among schools. And are we taking that into consideration that, against all hopes, Spalding could be consolidated with another school and wouldn't be used as a school anymore? But, and this is not to defer any maintenance or say that this is an impossible task, but we really don't know what's going to come up with all these consolidations.
I've heard that, Alice. Yeah. Mike Booton mentioned it. We were at a Republican meeting and I was talking about the foundation, our discussions with the facilities committee, and he said exactly what you said, which was pretty loud and clear to me, pump the brakes, because we don't know yet.
Yeah,
Well, even if we did do the work, it would still be the community's access. So we can do these renovations and the community will still have access to it, whether or not it's a high school. I don't think major development is going to happen as soon as these things, if they fall into place, or if Spalding's not a school at all. So these fields will still be usable and better able to handle the needs of the community. People are always looking for soccer fields to play on, lacrosse fields to play on. So I don't think that should hamper us.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Alice, too, and it's a valid concern. It's a valid big question mark that's out there. I think at this point, we're not spending any money to get to the point where if we've got a professional engineer that's willing to donate his time to help us create a figure that we can give to Ed, to share with Ed, that, okay, Ed, we're in a range of kind of cost, and Ed can take that and try to solicit donations. We haven't spent any, BUSD tax dollar money to get to that point. So I don't think it's going to hurt us to try to follow through and get a good faith estimate on what a project like this would cost. So at this point, I think we're not spinning our wheels for nothing, and we're not spending any money to do that. I see no harm in doing this. That's
well, yeah, it's just not a question of harm or anything. It's just maybe the fear of the unknown. And in 5 years, could the Spalding Senior Center have the best soccer fields in the county? You know, that's a question.
Yes. Yeah, it's a fair
You'd
question.
like they can,
Turn the school into a senior center, is that what she's in senior?
yeah,
Well,
I don't know if they can use it.
Lincoln House is the perfect example. Right next door, there's a ball field. And
Yeah.
so it's, yeah. So
there's,
it's already been done.
Ridiculing here.
No,
it was a good point.
no, it could be, yeah, it could end up being anything, or it could end up.
I think the
Or nothing could happen. Yeah, I don't know. Things could change it. Yeah, a couple of years, but how long? It's not going to be a year project. It's going to take a few years, probably even to come up with money to begin with.
Wow.
You'd estimate. I don't know. I haven't tried to ask for a bunch of money in fundraising, but I remember people have been wanting to do more stuff to the fields for years.
Yeah.
So this is it's been a little slow, so to speak, but doesn't mean that we can't try and see what happens.
I think it's, obviously you need to get buy-in from the board, but Jamie's approach is to say, let's just get an idea of what that would be.
Some info.
The school's not committing to anything in that instance. The foundation would have to step up its game a little bit to see if we could create a capital campaign for said project that was initiated by the school. So in other words, if the school says, we would love to pursue this, and the foundation could put together a capital campaign in that regard and get some traction.
Is there anything else that the school would hold as a higher priority, so to speak, too? 'Cause I don't know what the school might think.
So the foundation has three main elements of focus. It's academic enhancements, so that's anything academically, like if they needed new whiteboards or special programs that are outside the scope of the school budget. Visual and performing arts, which leads to the auditorium upgrades and things like that. They're going to get into a true performing arts center, and athletics or athletics. Those are the three main areas of focus. And then when or if people donate, we can signify where they'd like their money to go. And we have allocated our treasurer through the city, through the school allocates those, so that we don't disrupt the wishes of a donor.
Yeah, well, I
get
get that.
It's about sports. I want this to go to
Yeah. Oh,
visual and
yeah.
performing arts, and so we have to honor that. We've been pretty good about it.
I'm
Yeah.
just,
Tina Gilbert.
In my opinion, I think that's a good idea. Somebody else, yeah, might think that schools should focus more on, say, the auditorium. So like maybe us going in this direction might not be what most of the people want. I don't know. I doubt it, but you never know.
Yeah, to your point, it's up to the board.
Yeah.
It's not Spalding High School Foundation's idea. It's whatever the board decides. So Jamie and Giuliano felt that it should start from the facilities committee and then progress organically from there.
Yeah. So maybe just a quick little piece of history too. So the ball fields as they are now, until the stormwater project took place, those ball fields were built in 1964. Those are 1964 ball fields. Nothing has been changed. There's been no major modifications. A couple of different scoreboards have been replaced.
And also,
Same dugouts.
Same dugouts. We removed one of the concrete dugouts because it was failing so badly we had to replace it some years ago.
and I've heard that like in one of these meetings how the track isn't state approved for tournaments and stuff like that. That's what does it, to be more exact with what the track and field is. It should be upgraded. I get it.
To be honest, we're bordering on potentially unsafe playing conditions on some of the fields right now. Like, we had 2 sinkholes pop up on the football fields last year during the lacrosse season. And so we're continually having to put these patches on that at some point something's going to happen and it's going to lead to something.
Was that due to the flooding, do you think, or the river? The question I had, Jimmy, was the bleachers, were they affected by the flooding at all?
No, we actually had an engineering firm come in and do an assessment of the bleachers, and they came back with good marks. No concerns.
And did the flooding preempt the upgrade to the track? I mean, it looks a lot better than it did.
So last year's flood, because a large portion of the track was actually flooded with debris, soot or silt and whatnot from the river. The type of material we had on that track wasn't available. We couldn't find that material anywhere. They went all over Vermont, New Hampshire.
The old staymat, that was called staymat.
It was a crushed granite cinder.
Yeah.
And with all the flooding going on, they weren't crushing any stone. They were using all the stone to repair riverbanks and roads and hillsides. Nobody had that crushed granite cinder. So we had to go to a different type of material. So because we went to a different material, we had to do the entire track, as well as the infield of softball field, because that was flooded as well. So we had to do both of those playing surfaces with new material. So the end result was we did end up with some better playing fields because of it. So I would say it's a modest improvement from what we had, but still not today's standards, high tech ball field conditions. Maybe if this is a fair time to ask you, Derek, to maybe sort of kind of run down the list of all the ball fields we have and like where we're lacking, where we should be.
Yeah, looking at this, I look at the project in kind of 2 halves. I think you have the half where baseball, softball, and those 2 soccer fields are. And then you have the track and football field or potentially multi-purpose field on that side. I think where we are truly lacking is we are sending kids off campus every day for practice in the fall for soccer and field hockey, which comes with its own set of liabilities and stuff that between supervision and transportation and those kinds of things. And I think that potentially, however, these changes could improve that to be able to bring everything on campus. We have a track that nobody wanted to come to high school track meets, so we no longer host high school track meets anymore because of they don't want to run on a dirt track. And then we have a football field and lacrosse field that's degrading and constantly just does not hold grass any longer. That is concerning. So like we're continually just patching things as we can go to make it as good as we can, and that's, I guess, where the current state of it is today.
Can you explain why as we call it the football field, but it's football field, it's the lacrosse field. Can you explain why we have so much troubles with it?
I think it gets so barren and overused. There's no other place for the football team to really practice, so they have to use that for practices. So it's constantly just used 100%, whereas at other schools, the football teams or those high use teams are only using that for like games. And you see that where a grass field just isn't going to be able to hold up to something like that. There's a giant hump. The hump in the middle of the field makes it super awkward.
I thought that was designed for drainage.
Not to the height that one is. So I don't know if that's been changed or added to, but like it's rough.
I remember we used to practice on practice fields, not the main field.
Right.
And the outfield of the Little League field down there, sometimes you get a little muddy, but,
You know, and then so currently too, if I could add to that, so currently the ball fields we have now, the varsity soccer teams go up to Berrytown to play on those fields because the soccer field we have now, portion of the soccer field is actually on the dirt infield of the baseball field.
Giant section of it.
So that's not a true regulation soccer field. It's not great conditions. It's not great conditions for a soccer field.
Yeah.
As well, the baseball field, the depth of the outfield, the depth of behind the home plate doesn't meet regulation dimensions, sizes for a baseball field. So that's not regulation baseball field as well.
It's a very short field out to right field and center field, but there's no set legal standards for NFHS guidelines on the depth of the outfield, so it's playable. We can play high school state playoff games there, but it's not an ideal situation for that.
So you mentioned you broke it up into two sections.
Mhm.
Where would you start first?
Ideally, I think putting a multi-purpose turf field on the inside of a rubberized track would benefit the overall school more, because you could host all of your games could be hosted on that. And it could be a potential revenue generator in its own right for its own maintenance that it would occur, and offset potential other costs that would come up with it. And I think that's just the most dire needed playing surface of them. But I can also see the benefits of adding a second grass field out into the outfield as well. So, but those, I think,
Judging from these, I can see
Right.
either side.
Yeah.
I can-
If you had a magic wand, it would be a turf and
turf field with a rubberized track. I think from a keeping everything on campus and potential revenue would be most beneficial.
yeah, I think that's huge, keeping kids on campus, because at one point, lacrosse was going all the way to Washington.
Yeah, they went to Washington 2 years
It's,
ago.
it's further than,
For practice, jeez.
visiting Montpelier and U32, and you
Yeah.
need a bus to do that.
Yeah.
So,
more money, more liability, yeah.
It's also to me, would be good for the city too, because you could hold more.
Right, you could be generating state championship games
Yeah.
could come in, you could be.
It's like during the
renting it out.
BOR time, that's
Right,
helpful
right,
for,
exactly.
helpful for Barry.
You mean
So,
the auditorium.
yeah, the auditorium time, that's so much nicer for the area than having to go somewhere else. I get it. I get that aspect, but I can see where that could benefit the other teams besides football and.
But I mean,
Correct,
with that, you've got the lights on it, so you could be hosting practices till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, where teams were able to use that multi-purpose field. So all of your soccer games were on there. And then you could still use that outside space for JV games or find space for the football team to practice, those kinds of things, where that would give us the most immediate upgrade right away.
You play soccer on a football field?
That if we had this, we could, yeah.
The dimensions, I thought soccer field was bigger.
It is, but it goes like with the way the lines are on a football field, most of these turf fields, we could put soccer, field hockey, football, lacrosse all of those lines go on in different colors
Yeah.
onto the field.
Yeah,
I've
fits
seen
within
So
the
it would
track.
be,
It does.
Yeah.
and it all fits inside of the regulation track.
Yeah, I've seen, so this really, I was, Norwich, when they did theirs.
Mhm.
And I was like, I went up there, I just had this dream that we could do
Yeah.
that. And
Right.
they have all the lines.
They have
on
everything
those.
except field hockey because they don't offer it there.
And can you speak to the reconfiguration of the baseball field with the consideration of it hitting from the river to the school?
I think
The
part
proposed,
of it
part of
is
the
just,
master plan?
I've looked at it. I wasn't here for when it was initially designed, but I think just based on space considerations, it's the only orientation that allows to create two grass fields between.
Right.
So it's the only way it would work.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say, I don't know if we thought of that, but it's crazy, but no, I mean, it utilizes the way
I can
that
see
it,
that way.
the
Yeah.
way that the proposal looks, there's two other fields that could be used.
Right. So in the
Without
fall,
getting
In the fall,
Without dirt.
in the fall season, you could have two soccer fields.
Yeah.
You know, playing at the same time, you know, and then come springtime, your baseball and softball fields, the way it was explained to us, could actually play at the same time because the depth of the fields was deep enough.
Right.
Baseball, softball could play at the same time. And or when those aren't playing, lacrosse could play on those fields. So alternating, you know, that schedule, you potentially have, you know, softball, baseball, boys and girls lacrosse all playing in that area, and obviously alternating days to day. But you know, it took, I don't know how many renditions it took us to get to this design, this layout, to, you know, to put
You're working with
10 pounds of sugar in a 10-pound bag, you know, to get all that
You're working
on
with Du Bois and King, right?
there. Which was, yes,
And you were here for that.
right. Giuliano and I both were here for that.
The traffic pattern reconfiguration and the riverbank improvement, all that. Well, whatever the price was then, I'm sure it's higher
Oh,
now.
God.
But you know, you gotta start somewhere, and
Now, something I want, you know, ask this group here. So before, when this was designed back in 2012, and again, like you mentioned, the stormwater project hadn't taken place yet. Now that it has, and we've got this grassy swale and whatnot, a lot of this gravel footpath that surround, you know, the perimeter of the ball field, well, I'm gonna dare say about half of that is not really an option anymore, putting in a gravel footpath. Is there still any value of having a gravel footpath kind of along the perimeter of following the edge of the river? Is there still any benefit to having that? And I say that because my maintenance mind then goes to the maintenance and upkeep of that gravel footpath. It's another maintenance item that, you know, to keep gravel there, to keep the weeds off it, to maintain it, to keep it safe.
the only benefit is it looks like it's a pedestrian path to access the fields. So you're getting easier access for maybe people with limited mobility. The way it's looking like it's designed here, it's how people would get out to the football field and get out to baseball would be able to get around via the footpath. So I don't know if that's the benefit. But
I thought it was originally meant to be outside the blinds, behind the fence, I don't know.
Yeah, it was never supposed to be out, because outside the fence is obviously on the riverbank.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of land there that there's major reconstruction you'd have to do to do that.
So who did the work up near from the Little League field toward the railroad tracks? Cause that was like a real, I looked at that and I said, we're never gonna be able to put a footpath in. Starting from there, can't even imagine cutting that all back, but somebody did it. Was that
Well,
the railroad?
well, to stabilize, we had to stabilize that riverbank because of the flooding,
Up by
the
the
erosion.
up by the railroad tie near the baseball field, the Little League field,
It's now softball field.
softball. You
Yeah.
guys did all that work? That was Spalding?
Our maintenance crew did a lot of that brush clearing, tree clearing along that fence line.
Yeah.
Yeah, kudos to our groundskeeper guys doing all that work. You know, he cleared a ton of, we did hire out a landscape company to come in and do the bulk of cutting the trees and whatnot. But then because of the flooding, subsequent flooding, we've been to stabilize those riverbanks. We've had to hire contractors to come in and rebuild those riverbanks.
But, so I remember the discussion was more of a community service thing as opposed to the footpath. And, which I thought was a good idea, but to your point about maintenance and liability, and if it was outside the fence, now you're close to the river, and you got kids using the outside path on the outside of the river with no fence to the river. I don't know.
Are
I-
these
I-
questions for the engineer?
Well, yeah, for them to weigh in on, I mean,
Yeah.
he's gotta ask us what we're looking for. If we're asking him to give us a professional estimate on this project, these are all things he's gonna need to know.
Yeah.
So knowing that half of this footpath can't happen because of the stormwater swale that's now been constructed. I think I hear you, Derek, saying, I'm not seeing really any value of putting this gravel footpath in on the
Because
other
you
side of it.
The section over by Woods Hold Crimson Tide Way is the section you're talking about that would be no longer
It's along the guardrails.
along the guardrails.
Yeah, and that, what I was thinking was just go beyond the guardrails. So like you could use the sidewalk that's in between the road and the parking lot and continue out through, just make it larger so you kind of go outside of the fence line within the school perimeter, not where the water is, the river. So you can actually make it just a little bit bigger.
I just think it would be lowest on the
Yeah.
priority
Yes,
list.
absolutely. But you still could have
But
it
it
if you
could,
really
yeah.
wanted it. And that's my next question, like, what is our priority? Like, I know you mentioned the turf and the track, there's also additional lighting. And then, concession, I mean, because I don't think that's always gonna be our main concession, and like a ticket area and like how to funnel people through. So there's a bunch more things to talk about.
Yeah, we did get a quote from Black River Design on a new concession stand in that corner there. That is in that possession. We paid for that. Just a couple of different, if that triangle was utilized more for with bathrooms and a new concession stand in that corner.
So Derek, you said a little earlier that if we artificial turfed field inside of the track, then all the night games would happen on that field.
All games would have.
Yeah, so then we wouldn't be looking for additional lighting out on the remainder of the field then. Right?
Okay.
So that'd be a
Right?
great
Well,
cost savings.
you could always use more lighting and have other
Safety
people,
reasons.
have other people use the fields, you could rent out
Right.
that stuff too while other things are going on. I don't know if the initial cost will outweigh that, but it's there. It's been put in place,
Yeah, that
whether
was-
we use it or not.
And that was factored in, of lighting for the baseball, softball field.
Yeah, those are currently housed for additional lighting if necessary. The power's there, poles are there. That was kind of a big deal. Speaking of which, so the Little League poles, there was a discussion at one time about those are owned by Barry Community Baseball.
So I'm unclear if they've actually signed ownership over to us.
Disclaimed them.
I'm not clear on that. So that's something I'll have to look into. Have they given us ownership of those light poles? I don't know that answer.
Did you ever have any contact with Barry Community Baseball prior to? Were you privy to the? Was it written or unwritten when that Little League field was created? The story goes that it was there. We had a 50-year. They had a 50. When they built the school, they said you can build the school here if you have a Little League field for 50 years.
That's news to me. I've never heard of
I'm not
that.
surprised.
I know,
Jamie?
There was a lease. And we're going back about a decade or so, when that lease finally expired, they were paying a certain monies to have the rights to that field. We've since, that lease has expired and we've taken back ownership rights of that field, and we made a dedicated softball field, which brought our softball field back on our property, because they used to go up to Lincoln Field and other fields to play baseball. Again, that was another team that had to outsource and find another field. They couldn't play on the then Little League field because of the mound. The mound height was different all the time. Everybody was sitting there watching the clock. Come 5 o'clock, they had to get off. This team had to get on. It was a very hard schedule to try and comply with. So when the lease ended, Spalding High School took over their rights, ownership of that field and made it softball field.
Much to the dismay of Berry Community Baseball. And the historic Little League that was on that field for years. But that's just, that was a contractual thing in the school there. And that's where we're at. Unfortunately, they got the bond field and they moved up. So there was discussion about taking those lights up to the bond field because they're theirs.
Right.
Lamberton Electric put them in, and I just, that's a whole nother.
So I will investigate the ownership of the poles. I'll find that out.
There was a friend of mine whose grandfather had a plaque on that field when it was Berry Community Baseball, Berry City Little League. And he's got pretty deep pockets, and he was concerned about the continuity of that plaque, or at least it was I can get into the details, but it would be good to honor that and utilize that for future donations if we did it right.
I believe that was spoken before years ago. That plaque has been removed and given to them. I don't remember the details, but that was dealt with.
Okay. So how would you proceed for presenting this to the school board? To, get approval to,
I think there needs to be a plan, like some sort of itemized list of what we would like to see happen first, a progression, and then eventually get a good faith estimate. And
If phase one is to artificial turf the field and rubberize the track, is that maybe our focus? Do we focus there first? Do we want to try to focus on the entire ball field?
well, I think Derek should provide what he's looking for, because it's kind of what you're managing. But I think everything should be on the board, literally on the board, so we know what is or could be managed.
Well, and that's the thing, is if we go to Jeff, I don't know what process or order has to take place, but if we know it's gonna cost X amount to do rubberized track and this amount is significantly different and much more attainable to reorient the other fields, that might change the preference if things are.
That's what I'm thinking.
So I think it's good to see, because we already know we've got it as two separate things, that we look at it as a whole and then can divide it up as needed based on what things are coming back as.
Do we want to keep it as the two? I think so, but half and half, that makes kind of sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would look to Derek to kind of steer where it goes, and depending on the cost issues and what could happen first, that's all gonna come out later. with the
Right, so I think
information.
looking at it as asking someone to give us some sort of figures to do
Well, the whole thing.
each of them, and then,
To still keep
but
it as
still
half.
keep it as two separate
Okay, yeah,
things,
that's,
to know what's the attainable thing, and if it's,
because it does kind of make sense if you're gonna do the other, do everything in this section, and then do everything in this.
Right.
Instead of this part, this part, this part.
Right.
Yeah.
obviously we can let the board know what the preference is, but obviously at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So we can just-
Alice,
Giuliano, I would think that the board would be looking for a total list of needs. The 1 through 12 or 1 through 20, whatever the total list of needs are, so that they can look at it and then ask the engineer a two-part question. What would be the best way to accomplish these needs, and what would be the total cost? Because I'm sure the board is going to look at the total cost bottom line above everything else.
And then maybe disruption.
At the same time, I like to, let's keep on the table and remind ourselves, the focus at the moment is to try to get a good faith ballpark estimate of what this type of a project would cost, so that Ed can take that kind of a figure to share with potential donors. You know, and then if the interest is there and folks are really starting to donate and the balance is growing, we start getting to where we've got some funds in the account, or we can potentially then start thinking we could entertain a phase. Then as we get into the detailed official, we're putting this out to bid, we're hiring an engineering firm to now design. You know, you've got to get surveyors and engineers to engineer and design this project. And that's going to be expensive alone right there to design it. Once it's been designed, and then putting it out to bid, and that's hiring an engineering firm to oversee that bidding process, you know, to be part of that. So I don't want us to get too much into the weeds, because again,
But you need to, you should have the board being on board with what's happening, so that they know, that the entire school board knows what's happening. So you can't eliminate the step of taking the information to the school board first, that this is the list of needs. And then we're going to do, because as soon as you cut the school board out of the picture, it's not going to be to our benefit.
Right.
Benefit
Yeah,
being
no,
the school.
Well, yeah, no, you're not, I would say before Ed runs to the hills, yes, obviously they need to say, okay, yeah, go ahead, Ed, do your thing.
We would need an MOU, a memo of understanding. And then
Yeah,
to
right.
Al's point, they have to sign off on it from the athletic director's best recommendation, from the facility directors agreeing that this is time to do it. And the school says, okay, it's not gonna cost us anything to look into it. I mean, we almost had money for the feasibility study. We had some of the flood mitigation money from the ARPA money, but then the floods hit. And I had vied for a $27,000 feasibility study grant to do just what Jamie's asking. Because it's probably gonna cost money just to ask how much that's gonna cost.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and the foundation has money to, if it was 20 to 30,000 to do this feasibility study, but it's tough getting that off the ground, and that would have to come from the school. You guys would have to shepherd that to do the dealings. I think Jamie said already, you know, with Bellavance and Sons, you know, they've done a lot of the work. They probably seem interested. They did a lot of work for the flood, for the stormwater runoff.
yeah, I mean, it would be a potential bidder when the time comes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, bidder, can they provide a quote, an estimate?
Not until it's been engineered. This has to be engineered by professional engineers. It's a scope that's way beyond even that I understand about this type of a project. Has to be engineers,
Drainage and electrical and
all the permits, various permits. We're alongside the riverbank. You've got Army Corps of Engineer that gets involved, state permits, city permits. It's an arduous process.
I think Jeff, it falls under Jeff's purview if he were to take it on.
That's his area, you know, and he's willing to donate some efforts, but we're not there yet. I'm looking to him just as a professional engineer to provide some insight on how we can get to a point where we can give you a good faith estimate. You know, this project's in the range of, you know, and then we share that part with the board. Here's what we're looking at doing. Here's what we want to do. We've gathered some information. You know, we've gotten some preliminary information, something the board can work with and understand. And that, okay, now at this point, the board gives its blessing. We authorize the Spalding High School Foundation on our behalf to go out and solicit donations for this type of project.
Create a capital campaign explaining exactly what would be done if we were to get this money.
You know, at that point, foundation comes back to us, okay, we've got X dollars we like to contribute towards this project. Then the board gets involved, facilities committee gets involved, and it's okay. Now we need to hire an engineering firm now to start to design this. That's when we're gonna start getting into the thick of it.
And I would respectfully suggest that just what you talked about even with the blank spots of not knowing what the cost is or the engineering or anything like that, we should fill the board in, the entire board in on what we're thinking about.
Sure,
And
okay.
I think that's a very important piece, because to hold back and suddenly say to the board, here it is, it's all engineered, it's going to cost this much, now we need your blessing. They're going to ask, who died and made you the authority? You know, that kind of thing. And I'd hate to get that kind of a stymied position. So I think what we need to do is give the board a preliminary heads up that this is what the facilities committee is thinking. What do you think about it?
Yep, no, fair enough.
Yeah, because they could say no or not at this moment, then we don't have to put our time into it yet. But this fight, we want to fight for it, but it doesn't mean
Yeah.
you don't want to put all this effort into it and then just get slapped in the face. Like, oh, no.
And using that same argument that, and not necessarily in an argumentative way, but the same potential that regardless of what happens as far as consolidations and future use of the Spalding building, the community would have that, and it would be a community financed project, not the school.
Well, I was just gonna ask you, Alice, and so I don't think the board's fully cognizant of what the Spalding High School Foundation is.
Right.
And so I think if this has to be done, absolutely, I've been telling Jamie this, we don't do anything without the blessing of the board.
Right.
I mean, and so you're 100% right, and I just I'm asking or cautioning, so at some point in time, they're gonna think that this is an ask for money, and I wanna make it clear that it's not.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Does that make any sense? I mean,
No.
Jamie, you know what
No.
I'm talking about, because
We want to share with the board, this is a concept. We want the board's approval to
the
explore this concept.
The concept would be that the 501c3 that could benefit this school would do this. Now, I know that's taking a big load on partially or within the Spalding High School Foundation, but and then to your point, if we get down the road and the school decides to complete the funding with their own bond or something like that, but that is not what we're going in with, to present any more cost outside the normal school budget and that needs to really be made the point when you do the presentation to the board.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I'm not asking the board for any money. We just want to know if this is anything you're interested in. And we get your
Just as
blessing.
well, that, I think the only people remaining on the board are Giuliani and I, who have a full awareness of what the foundation does. All the other members, it's an anomaly to them.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just want to be on the same page, that I don't want to get the public or the board riled up about asking for more money. That's
Right.
not what this is about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, this is about trying to fulfill a need at the school and raise our community better, utilizing the resources that we have.
So it sounds like what we're agreeing to now then, so our first step is we should bring this to the board.
Yeah.
Both you come to the board, Ed, and educate the newer board members of the foundation and what they're all about. You know, and then for us to share with them this conceptual drawing that was done back in 2012. Here's what these ball fields could look like. And once they understand what the foundation is about, do we have the blessing of the board to investigate without any expense incurred at the time? What kind of an estimate we could achieve, what we could find out, to do the said project.
Yeah, I think that
Sounds like that's the direction we're headed next.
Sounds
that
like
sounds like it should be.
Sounds like I should run this by my board, which hasn't met in a while, but I'd like to do that first, yes.
And typically during the summer, the school board is not meeting very often now, correct?
August will be our next meeting.
Yeah.
August.
There have been times, yeah, they don't meet in the summer, but I don't know. It's
Somewhere between August, September, we could put this on the agenda.
Yeah, probably September. I think the board meets before we do again. So it's
And facilities generally doesn't meet during the summer. This was just sort of to kind of get us caught back up with various summer projects. And just,
August 11th would be the
Resurrect
next
this conversation.
facilities, but you're not doing that.
No, we wouldn't. Right? We wouldn't meet in August, would we?
we typically don't meet until school starts, facilities.
Okay, so then we'll scratch that because that's what's listed.
But, or should we?
The agenda. No, it's the board will meet, we could, because the board will meet before we do. So if they do
We can prepare for that.
give the blessing, we can kind of go into, just a meeting to discuss like how we're going to attack it, but, break into phases, have Jeff here to answer some questions or get some feedback from us. I mean, if the board agrees to it, we should probably move on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or you want to do it here? You want to do that the next meeting? Is that what you're saying?
It doesn't, that's up to the board. I mean,
No,
it's already-
if you want to bring it up to the board next meeting, or do you want to wait another month for him to get more details set for your meeting?
if Ed can do it before the next school board meeting, then sure. If not, we can wait him, until,
Yeah, I mean, logistically, I have a board. We
Yeah.
should be meeting and discussing. This is just my brainchild thing. And we're keeping it, it's still a viable 501c3. We've done all our filings. There's still a bank account we have. We just haven't done anything and met for a while.
yeah, I'm not opposed to waiting, just,
So while Ed is getting his board organized, we could bring, Giuliano and I could bring and Jamie could bring the concept to the full board and explain the role of the school and the role of the foundation in this project.
I'd be comfortable with that.
I'm good with that.
I mean, and I could back up that. I'd be there for that, but I wouldn't be able to make any commitments from the board.
Right. And we wouldn't be asking for any.
meeting date.
It's really an information session so that all the members of the board can ask their questions about what the foundation is, how it functions, and what the relationship between the school and the foundation is.
Denise Maurice is the principal, correct?
Yes.
That sounds good. Thank you, Alice.
You're welcome. It's what I do.
All right, is there anything else?
No, I think we've got to organize our thoughts here on this one.
Yep.
Okay. Jared?
It's great.
All right, so, thank you, everyone. And it says next meeting is August 11th. So do you want to change that to September?
I think so.
Is Garrett Grant on the board?
Yes.
Okay, so he stepped up. I know Garrett through Rotary and through the library. He said he'd be the board representative to the foundation.
Okay, I
So-
think he's gonna have to be appointed to that by the board, but he can volunteer.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's been appointed.
I think he might have been appointed, Alice,
Okay.
but whatever the process is, he's told me that, we've chatted and he said, hey, I'm gonna be the board appointee.
Oh,
For
then
the
that's,
foundation.
yeah,
Okay, so our next meeting will be September 8th.
And then, but there'll be a presentation to the BUUSD board prior to that
Yes.
with regard to what Alice said she'd introduced to the other incumbents about the foundation.
yeah.
All right, so I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Wait, can I ask one more question? It's just a housekeeping question. If we're gonna go before the board, Giuliano, do we need to have one of those preliminary, whatever they are? Board information sheet?
Yes.
Okay. We want to do rock, paper, scissors as to who gets to fill it out?
I'm the chair, so I guess I could dictate where that goes. No, I can take care of it. That's fine.
Okay. Because I wouldn't want anything, this is such a valuable project that I wouldn't want anything to mess it up. And
Nope.
it,
I can take care of it.
okay, thank you. Now we can adjourn.
So did you make that motion, Alice?
I will make that motion, yes.
I'm looking for a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned at 6:10.
Good.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes,
Thank you, Al.
thank you and good night.
Good night.
Now off to the Mootswa for the North End, discussion meeting I wanted to go to. So yeah,